A ninth conviction for driving under the influence of alcohol appears to have been the last straw for a Texas judge. Last week, the judge sentenced 54-year-old Bobby Stovall to life in prison after the habitual drunk driver was arrested in July. Police say Stovall had been weaving in and out of traffic, hit another car, and injured the driver before he was pulled over. His blood alcohol level was 4 times the legal limit in Texas. But even though this was Stovall's 9th drunk driving conviction, some say life in prison is too harsh. I'm joined by one of them, Lawrence Taylor, a lawyer and author of Drunk Driving Defense. Mr. Taylor, tell us why you believe this punishment does not fit the crime.
Good afternoon, Chris. First of all, let me be clear. The Stovall case is not a rare exception. It's an increasing phenomena. According to the Texas Department of Justice, there are currently 16 people serving time, life sentences, 99 years to life, and an additional 23 individuals from 60 to 88 years. So you've got 39 people in state prisons in Texas alone who are essentially serving time for being alcoholics and getting behind the wheel. And none of those cases involved any serious injury or death.
This is a reflection of the fact that juries, that judges, and I would argue a big chunk of the American public in general is fed up with drunk driving.
Well, I don't blame them. It's a serious problem, and I'm not suggesting that it should not be dealt with severely. What I am suggesting that alcoholism is behind these types of cases. When you have someone with a 0.32 alcohol and he's on his 9th case, you've got a severe alcoholic, and these are the ones who cause the damage. But alcoholism is a disease. It's a disease that has a strong genetic component. In other words, the propensity, a strong predisposition for alcoholism is inherited. And I suggest to you to start with that it is not fair to imprison a person for the rest of his life for what is essentially a problem, a disease.
Well, let me play the devil's advocate here. You certainly might be able to make that argument on the first go-round, the second, maybe even the third go-round. But 9 times in, he hits a car, injures the driver. He is essentially walking around firing a loaded weapon and just waiting for it to hit somebody.
Well, that's true, but what's the answer? To throw the person in prison for the rest of their life, or, in the alternative, to sentence him, but also to give him extensive rehabilitation, and I mean real rehabilitation. If you look at it from a cost-benefit analysis to society, a life sentence is going to, well, let's see, about $100,000 a year to the taxpayer for a person in prison. Say 30 years, that's $3 million. You can provide an awful lot of rehabilitation to an individual for much less than $3 million.
But of course we've gotten to this extreme situation where he's had so many multiple drunk driving convictions. At what point do you do that? Do you do it on the first conviction, and then if they fall off the wagon and drive again, then they could possibly get much more severe sentences? Where does that fit into this whole process?
I would suggest, Chris, that that is a reverse approach to the situation, that it is the first time or even the second time offender who is not an alcoholic, is a social drinker. Where you find the serious alcoholics, who are the danger, are the ones who have multiple DUI or DWI convictions and have unusually high blood alcohol. You're always going to find those 2 factors in situations involving severe alcoholism.
Lawrence Taylor with, I think, an opposing point of view to a lot of people, but we thank you for coming on and talking about it.
Thank you, Chris, for having me.